If you are looking for a new Prebuilt PC that can run any game at 4K and 1440p resolution, then you may want to take a look at today's PC in the HP Omen 35L. In this full in-depth review, I will be comparing this PC with other Prebuilt PCs in the market, testing it for gaming in different type of games, pros and cons, and then I will also tell you whether you should buy this system or not, depending on your budget and your needs. The link to this exact same system will be down below in the video description with the latest prices and availability in your region, and you will also find alternative Prebuilt PCs for different budgets that I will be mentioning in today's video. My name is Valentino. That being said, let's start. First, I'll quickly talk about the specifications for this PC, trying to explain everything as simple as possible in case you are a beginner to PCs. That way you can understand what I'm saying. And the first thing, one of the most important components for gaming, is the graphics card. And here we have the RTX 4080 Super, and for those who don't know, the RTX 4080 Super is one of the fastest graphics cards in the entire market, especially for 4K or 1440p. If you want a future-proof gaming system for 1440p resolution and you want to achieve very high FPS, on paper the 4080 Super is the second best graphics card in the entire market. And then for the CPU, which is another very important component for gaming, you get a Ryzen 7 8700G, which is actually pretty decent for high CPU demanding games like Fortnite, Valorant, CS2 and these type of shooters. Now don't worry about it because I will be testing this PC in different type of games anyway in just a moment. For the rest of the components, you can basically customize everything, but this particular PC has 2TB of SSD, which is plenty of storage, and 64 gigs of DDR5 memory, which is enough RAM for video editing, content creation, streaming and gaming at the same time. Now let's talk about this PC design before going into the gaming performance. I absolutely love how this PC looks. It looks a bit different compared to previous HP releases like the HP Omen 40L or 45L. This one in my opinion is my favorite. It looks very clean with RGB that you can always turn off in case you don't like RGB, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. And the most important part is that it has plenty of airflow. You will not have any issues when it comes to your CPU or GPU temps, so there's not going to be any bottlenecks long term and your PC components are going to be safe. But now let's talk about what everyone cares about, the level of gaming performance. I will be testing this PC in two different type of games. One of them is a very high demanding game in Cyberpunk 2077, and the other one is Fortnite, which is an esports shooter in case you want to compete in those type of titles. Now I will be testing these two games at 4K resolution with my 4K Omen monitor, so if you also want the best monitor for this PC, you will find the monitor recommendations down below in the video description as well for different budgets. So right now I am testing Cyberpunk 2077 on ultra settings at 4K with DLSS quality, and to be honest, there's basically no difference between native resolution and DLSS quality when it comes to 4K resolution. Anyway, in the top left corner of the screen you can see the FPS, you can also see the FPS average, and then on top you can see the GPU temperature, which is actually pretty damn good considering it's a 4080 Super. Really good temps. The FPS are over 60 FPS all the time, which is pretty nice considering this is 4K ultra settings. Now I didn't test it with ray tracing or anything like that because, to be fair, most people do not use ray tracing, but if you want you can easily turn on ray tracing and then use DLSS balanced or frame generation to pull higher FPS. However, I do think that this game looks great on ultra settings and honestly pretty smooth, no FPS drops, and the FPS average in the end for Cyberpunk 2077 at 4K ultra settings with the Omen 35L is 67 FPS on average. And now moving to an esports shooter in Fortnite, we have in the top left corner once again you can see the FPS in real time and the FPS average. This is 4K performance mode with the texture quality on high and view distance on high. This is supposed to be competitive settings, by the way. I'm not really a pro at Fortnite, so maybe there's a different setting, but it was pretty smooth as well, and I was averaging over 270 FPS all the time, so really good frame rates in case you want a 4K 240Hz monitor. You can easily fit a 1440p 360Hz if you want to, or a 1080p 360Hz or 540Hz if you have the budget to. Now that you've seen how this PC performs in different type of games, I will give you even even more benchmarks. Here you have more benchmarks for high demanding titles at 4K resolution. You can pause the video if you want to see the exact numbers and the total FPS on average. And now here you have more benchmarks for easier to run games in case you want to compete in those games competitive settings, once again at 4K resolution. In my opinion, it's a really good level of performance, especially when we talk about 4K high to ultra settings. So if you want to play at 1440p, you will find the 1440p benchmarks down in the video description with the exact FPS average in different type of games. I also recorded how this PC sounds while testing Cyberpunk 2077 at 4K ultra. In case you want to hear how noisy this PC is, spoiler alert, is actually pretty quiet. Now let's talk about the software, which is one of my favorite things about this PC, and I'm talking about the Omen software. Here you can change the colors for everything, literally you can change the colors for every fan, you can also change the colors for the RAM sticks, and you can also change the colors for the graphics card. So you can basically customize everything, and you can always turn off the RGB. Here you can also check your system vitals, and you can check the exact specifications of your system. You can also check your CPU and GPU temps. You can also overclock your RAM, which I do recommend you doing if you will be playing games like Fortnite for the best performance. And you can also use PVO, which basically means that you will get faster performance out of your CPU depending on the game and depending on the settings. Then you can also change the power mode between balanced and performance depending on what you're looking for. Lastly, you can change the fans between quiet, normal and turbo. Personally, I like to keep it in quiet to record these videos, but if you're more into gaming and you want higher performance, you may want to keep it in normal or even turbo. And now let's talk about the pricing and compare this PC with other Prebuilt PCs in the market to see if it actually makes sense to buy one of these depending on your budget and your needs. The price for this system while I'm recording this video is about 2200 USD. Maybe when you're watching this video the price is cheaper or maybe it's a bit more expensive, so I do recommend you checking the latest prices and availability from the links down in the video description. Anyway, if you want this exact same level of performance as I've gotten today, then you have to go to the link for this PC, click on customize and buy and change the following. You want to change the processor from a Ryzen 5 to a Ryzen 7, then you want to change the storage from 500 gigs of SSD to at least 1 terabyte of SSD, then you want to change the memory from 16 gigs of RAM to 32 gigs of RAM for the best gaming experience. You want to change the graphics card from the RX 7600 to the RTX 4080 Super, and this is the most important change that you can make for gaming in terms of performance. And last but not least, you have to change the power supply from a 500 watt power supply to an 850 watt one. And if you got lost, don't worry, because in the video description you will find the instructions step by step as well. Now let's talk about the pros and cons for this PC, but before doing that I want to say that if you are finding valuable information so far, click the like and subscribe button. It's going to help the channel grow a lot and you get to learn more about computers. So let's start with the pros. The first pro is the level of performance. I mean, this system is a beast of a 1440p and 4K resolution gaming PC, and of course you can also use it for 1080p very high FPS, but I would recommend you having at least a 1440p monitor. Then the second pro is the design, super clean, one of my favorite ones, but that is honestly a personal opinion and it is subjective, so you may not like the design, but in my opinion most people will like. The next pro is the noise levels while gaming or while recording. I mean, you cannot hear anything from the background, and also it is amazing when it comes to gaming as well if you want a quiet PC. And last but not least, the software is another pro in my opinion. Very easy to use and you have everything that you need in there, so big thumbs up for the software. Now, for the only con that I have about this system is that the CPU is the Ryzen 7 8600G, which is a decent CPU, but it could be better. If you mainly play high CPU demanding games like Fortnite or Valorant and you want to compete at a high level, I would recommend you getting the more expensive 35L that you can find for around 2800 bucks by the time of filming. It is quite more expensive, but you get a much faster processor, and if you don't want to spend that much, you can also get for a bit more the HP Omen 40L instead, which has an i7 14th gen processor, but here you get the RTX 4070 Ti Super, so it's going to be slightly slower when it comes to high GPU demanding games like Cyberpunk 2077, but if you're going to be competing in high FPS shooters, once again, like Fortnite, Valorant, those games, the 40L is going to be much better for the price because of that processor. Don't worry, you will have every alternative down below, and you will also find the explanation for each PC depending on what you're looking for. Now let me give you my final thoughts and tell you whether you should buy this system or not. If you're looking for a PC for 1440p, very high FPS or 4K ultra settings in high demanding games, this is one of the cheapest gaming PCs that you can find with the RTX 4080 Super. So in my opinion, it is definitely worth the price for those high demanding games and also for esports games as well. If you're not going to be competing and you just want 240 plus FPS at 4K, that's going to be completely fine, especially for most esports games. So it is actually a pretty good deal. However, if you are going to be playing at 1080p and you want the highest frame rates on your esports shooters, you can get systems at a lower price, or you can get the other PCs from HP that I mentioned before and get faster performance for a lower or the same price. So really depends on the type of games that you want to play and how many FPS you want in those type of games. Because as I said before, this one is going to be perfectly fine for esports games for the most part, but if you're really competing and you need every FPS that you can get, then in that case I would go for a different alternative like the ones you will find in the video description. And if you have a different budget, let's say you have $1,500 to spend, or maybe you have more money, let's say you have $3,500 to spend and you want the best of the best, then I do recommend you checking my video on the best prebuilt PCs of the month for every budget and every resolution. You will find that one in the top right corner of the screen. Thank you for watching and I will see you on the next one.